involved in an environmental impact study that we were doing, and we were being taken to this sort of section of bush that was next to an old rose farm. The reason we were going there was because apparently the bush was relatively untouched from how it was from back in the day, because Bellingen used to be a big cedar cutting area, and a lot of the state forests there aren't natural. They're actually plantation timber state forests now. The rest of them were all sitting there talking to old mate about his roses, and I just sort of wandered off with another bloke who was behind me, just to go down and have a look at the bush first. We sort of went through the fence. We're just walking through, and then probably wasn't in there more than a few minutes, if that. And I just looked up, and there it was, just sort of looking back at me. It was side on to me. It sort of turned its body a little bit to look at me. And then within seconds, it just took off, jumped across a log, and was gone into the bush.
How far were you from this thing?
I wouldn't have thought any more than 30 metres, maybe a little bit more.
And where was this thing in relation to you?
Downhill, further in from the fence again, so maybe I was probably 20 metres in. It was probably 25, 30 metres in from the barbed wire fence.
As you're looking at this thing, can you describe it in as much detail as you remember?
A reddish brown, sort of a lighter reddish brown, not a dark reddish brown. Basically neat in appearance, like that. It looked neat. It didn't look matted or anything like that. It was shorter than I was. I'm 5'8". I reckon it was probably at least a foot shorter than me. Its head wasn't overly big. Its head was just small and round. The jaw didn't really... What was a little bit more pronounced than what I'd say ours is, but not big and sticky out like apes. So it was on the leaner side. I wouldn't say overly muscly or anything like that. It was more like a lanky teenager that's fit, but not big. Its chest wasn't, I wouldn't say big and muscly or any regards, just sort of more normal for what I was looking at, I suppose. But the funny thing that did stand out, though, was the eyebrow was a little bit more pronounced. The forehead wasn't particularly deep. It was sort of short. I suppose that's because perhaps the hair sort of come down to almost the eyebrows, I guess. But the funny thing about its top lip was what struck me the most, and I sort of described it originally as it having lizard lips because it had no lips. The skin just sort of come down and stopped. To me, it had eyes that you could actually see like an iris, not one colour or anything like that. Because when I looked at it, it looked at me, and it gave me that look that it had the shits with itself that I'd seen it. And as soon as I wasn't going to look at it, it was going to go. So I either looked down or I looked back or I did something and it was already gone. Like within the blink of an eye, it had decided to take off. The hair from the head to its shoulders and everything like that all seemed to be part of one thing. So not like a long hair on the head or anything like that. The hair seemed to sort of just flow naturally over itself, but not shaggy in any way either. Even though it was shorter than me, it would have been heavier than me, maybe 80 kilos, maybe a little bit more. It wasn't muscle bound in any way, but you could see the definition in where the muscles would be just a little bit. Like I said, it was like looking at a year 11 or 12 footy player.
When you're looking at this thing, did you get the sense of animal or person, or what was your impression?
More animal, definitely, with a slight human look and the way it took off with like a human style to me. The way it looked, a little bit more animal, really reminded me as like something out of the Planet of the Apes. Say animal or human, that's the sort of funny sort of crossover that it put in my mind at the time, I guess, and that's all I had to relate to it. I went into the bush, walked in a little ways. It was already looking at me when I looked up and saw it. It just sort of took off. It went over this log that was laying on the ground. And then when I walked up to that log, because I sort of walked in a little ways after it, and I walked up to this log and I just thought, geez, it got over that quick for, it's not like it was a really tall thing, but it seemed to just go over it like it wasn't there.